Dolphins fans, what is going on today? It is Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. In today's video, it's you guys actually that get to control the content. In one of the last videos I did, I said I was going to be doing a viewer Q&A video coming up here in the near future. So yeah, it is here today. So thanks to everyone that submitted questions. Not sure if I got to all of them or not. In the event I missed something and you noticed it, just drop your question in the comments. I will answer it there as well. But thanks to everyone that did submit a question. I'm going to be pumping through them here in a second. In the comments as well, if you guys are watching at home and saying, you know what, I agree with that answer. You know what, maybe I would have answered that one differently. Let me know. You drop your thoughts in the comments as well. Stay tuned. Coming up, videos, the NFL schedule release. I don't think they've officially made an announcement yet, but I believe it's going to be Thursday of this week if history repeats itself. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing a schedule release show. I'm going to be doing an OTAs preview video coming up as well. So get subscribed if you have not done so already. But let's jump in today's action. We got some great questions that came in. This first one comes from Kangaroo Bob. Is our offensive line better? Come on, we're talking about this year compared to last year. Or does Tua still have the worst protection in the league? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm nervous about this offensive line yet. We went into the offseason saying we need to get dirtier. We need to get tougher. We need to get more physical, offense and defensive line. Did we accomplish that? I like where we're heading with this offseason, but if you're asking me, did we accomplish that? So far, I've got to say no. Let's just do a comparison real quick. Left tackle, Teron Armstead remains the same. Left guard, if Isaiah Wynn plays, remains the same. Center, you go from Connor Williams to Aaron Brewer. We know what we were getting with Connor Williams. We were getting solid production, solid play. The snapping issues were a thing, but that's going to be a bar that he set that Aaron Brewer is going to have to live up to. So we'll see how that one plays out. At right guard, Robert Hunt has a distinct advantage over the question mark that currently sits at right guard for the Dolphins. And then right tackle remains the same for Austin Jackson. So overall, no, I cannot say that we got better because what did we do? We drafted Patrick Paul in the second round. He ain't helping for 2024. He ain't sliding into guard. He's not sliding into center. He's way too tall for all of that. He's a project at left tackle. He's hopefully going to be the future at left tackle. But as of 24, he's not doing anything right there. And even if you project forward, well, maybe he'll be better in 24 and beyond. Is he going to be Teron Armstead right at all? Definitely not right away. So you know what? As of right now, I don't think our offensive line is better. And then, yes, that is 100% one of my biggest areas of concern as things stand today. All right, this one comes in since we just signed Odell Beckham Jr. a couple of days ago. What's a realistic target share for Odell Beckham Jr. now that he's been added to the mix? Question comes from John Johnson. So I looked up last year, Durham Smythe. It's funny to look at the stats from last year because it's Tyreek at tier one. It drops down a little bit. You got Jaylen Waddle, and then it's a huge drop, significant drop. Durham Smythe was third on this team with 43 targets, just 35 receptions, 366 yards. So yeah, that's been our gripe all offseason, all of last offseason. We need a third pass catcher. So we thought it might be Jonnu Smith. Obviously, we added Odell Beckham. He's probably going to end up being that third target share kind of guy. So what my hope would be for a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., if you can get into that 50 to 60 catch range, let's give him 55 catches. You can get that 600 to 700 receiving yard window. That'd be great. Let's go 650 yards. Let's go 4 or 5 touchdowns. So target share, what do you got to get there? Probably for 55 catches, you're probably looking at about 90 targets. So if you look at Durham Smythe's 43 targets from last year, I want to damn near double it. If you can get me that 80 to 90 targets for Odell Beckham Jr., I think what that does is it opens things up more for Tyreek Hill, for Jaylen Waddle, because right now, when our passing offense got into a rut, we were always relying on Tyreek Hill, which is not a bad thing. It's good to rely on your studs, but at the end of the day, we all know what happens when you rely on them too often. The offense just kind of gets stuck in a rut because it doesn't know where to go after that. So if you can spread things out, still feed Tyreek Hill, still feed Jaylen Waddle, and now you can get Odell Beckham and 80 to 90 targets, I think that helps this offense. So that's kind of my hope, I should say, for a target share for Odell Beckham Jr. All right, Chris pops in with, How big of a window do the Dolphins have to win a Super Bowl with this roster? So yeah, I kind of make the mistake often in my videos of saying like we need to like I go back to the draft. I say we needed to add a guy that you can plug and play at guard, and I always go back to Troy Fautanu. Plug and play at right guard. Year two, you can slide him back over to left tackle. I was saying you got to do that because this is your window. You've got Tua on this cheaper contract. You've got Tyreek Hill still in place. You got Waddle on his rookie deal. You got Phillips on his rookie deal. You got Holland on his rookie deal. This is a great window, but I don't think it's the window. I think we're to a point where we did enough retooling, maybe we could say, this offseason by not giving huge money to Robert Hunt, to Christian Wilkins. We saved some money and we brought in some guys, but on our terms, on our kind of deals. And we were able to get those. Well, we expect to get those comp picks as well. So we got some nice draft capital coming up. We added some players right here. We added Chop Robinson as well. We added Patrick Paul. We just talked about that. So we did a little bit of retooling already. So I think we did that this offseason. We see how it goes. Hopefully we can remain competitive. I honestly think that we will. And then from there, you just keep it going. Because, yeah, we do have more draft picks starting already in 2025. So it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I don't see us blowing up this roster and this way of thinking and this team that we have for quite some time. And you know what? If and when we get this Tua Tagovailoa contract extension, it only prolongs that window because, yeah, we'll be paying him obviously more money in the long haul, and we're going to have to go a little bit cheaper at some positions. We're kind of already doing it. We're kind of already doing that right now, and who even knows with Tyreek Hill? You almost look at it as maybe this is our last year in his window. After that, maybe if this is his last year, more money frees up. But then, hey, we don't have one of the best playmakers in the game. So you could look at it from that standpoint. So it's almost like we're operating in a couple of different windows right now. But I don't necessarily think that we're locked into, we got to get it done this year. We got to get it done in the next 2 years. I'd like to, but I just don't know if it's that case. All right, Drew Starr comes in with the wide receiver room already crowded before the Odell Beckham Jr. signing. What happens to players such as Braylon Sanders and Anthony Schwarz? Quite honest, I mean, I like these guys. I really liked Braylon Sanders a couple of years ago. Best case scenario, you're probably looking at practice squad, though. I don't think either of them, you look at this wide receiver room right now. Realistically, I don't think either of them have a shot for the final 53. If you look at Schwarz in general, he was brought in last year when we were having some injury issues, and it was injury issues to the speed guys, to the Tyreek Hill, to the Jaylen Waddle. And it's like, you know what? If we want to keep our offense as high potent, as high flying as possible, in the event we need someone to come in, well, we need someone that's going to stretch the field. We need someone that's the defense is going to have to respect. So that's why I think Anthony Schwarz, a guy like him, was even brought in the first place. Anthony Schwarz he's not the world's greatest route runner. He doesn't have the world's great hand. He literally is a speed guy that just happens to kind of play football as well. I don't necessarily think that he's got much of a shot outside of the practice squad. And a guy like Braylon Sanders, we all fell in love with him, 2-3 years ago? Quite honestly, that might be where it maxes out. We always cheer for a guy like that. I loved the idea of him making the roster a couple of years ago, investing in him, seeing what he can do. Unfortunately, like guys in that situation, sometimes he gets hurt. He kind of falls down the totem pole. You bring in a guy like Eric Ezukanma. You end up bringing in the Washingtons that we brought in with Malik and Taj. So his battle just got steeper and steeper and higher. So, yeah, quite honestly, it's bleak. I don't like their shot. Practice squad probably at best. All right, Mighty Zayn with, will Stephen Ross sell the Dolphins within the next 5 years? So this is likely stemming from the report that I think Stephen Ross turned down like $10 billion for the team, the stadium, the F1 team and everything. First and foremost, the whole ownership thing, it's not my wheelhouse. You're probably asking the wrong guy. I will say that Stephen Ross is about to turn 84 years old. I think it's yet in May when I looked it up. I don't want to sound too morbid. You might not see 5 more years. That's quite honestly my answer. Like I said, this is not my wheelhouse. I won't spend too much time on this one. The one thing I have been told is that his daughter is super business savvy. She's like the person that you would like in this type of role. And I don't know much outside of that, but I tell you what, like I've heard that if Stephen Ross were to not sell, pass it down, and his daughter be the one in charge, we're not in bad hands. So, hey, a weird nugget, but keep it in mind. Let's go on to this one from Dean Grisham. Mike White, Skylar Thompson are not exactly reassuring as capable in the event Tua goes down to injury. What changes do you see in 2024? Will they pick up someone different after June 1st or final roster cuts to help support the position group? So I'm actually going to go back to last offseason when Tua was coming back from the concussions, and we saw what happened when Tua came out of the lineup and Teddy Bridgewater was hurt and Skylar Thompson would get hurt here and there. Neither of them were putting up the offensive numbers that this team was when Tua was in at quarterback. And it's like, okay, well, if Tua gets hurt again, which has happened pretty much all the years except for this last year, which we're getting to here, we need someone. We need someone that's more capable. So I thought we would make Splash is aggressive, but I thought we would make more priority of assigning a better backup quarterback to this roster. Whether even if it was a guy like Gardner Minshew at that point in time, like, you know, we need to make a little bit of noise here. We need to get a veteran. We need to get a guy that has some experience. We got Mike White. We got Mike White, who has some experience. He had a couple of flashy games with the Jets, but overall, like if you look at his touchdown to interception ratio, if you look at his overall production, if you look at his win losses, it just wasn't there. So it's like, geez, how Chris Greer always said, you guys are more worried about the offensive line than we are. Maybe they feel that way about the quarterback situation too. And it was the whole idea of, you know what, if we retool the offense to the point where we're going to have Tua get rid of the ball in 2 seconds. We're going to put the offensive line in front of him. He's going to get rid of the ball in 2 seconds. We're not going to let him get hurt. He's going to take jujitsu. He's going to learn how to fall, which all that paid off. And the whole idea of him getting the ball out right away worked. It worked to an extent. It worked because it led to one of the league's best offenses. But at the end of the day, when that initial hit wasn't there and Tua had to stay in the pocket and we suffered more injuries up front, you could tell that Tua just didn't feel as comfortable. We needed to give him that extra half second to be able to scan the field and go to his second, third, fourth option. It just wasn't always there. So with all that being said, kind of my long way of saying, since they didn't do it last year when he was coming off the multiple concussions and all the injuries he's had before that, I don't know that they're necessarily going to do it this year either. I'd like to. I'd absolutely like to because, yeah, I'm not the world's biggest Skylar Thompson fan. In my opinion, he was the guy that when you drafted him, you wanted him on the practice squad. Well, he blew up on he was basically the NFL's preseason player of the year. You had to roster him or he was going to get poached. Well, you brought him in and you saw what he did in regular season games against actual NFL defense, and it wasn't very inspiring. And Mike White, you could kind of say the same about. Like, we didn't have to rely on him last year, which was a good thing. And I think that we could do better than a guy like Mike White at backup quarterback. At the end of the day, I think we'll prioritize other things. Hopefully we bring in another offensive lineman. Maybe we bring in a safety. Who knows what the team's going to end up doing? Obviously, we brought in Odell Beckham Jr. As much as I'd like to really reassure this backup quarterback position, I just don't necessarily think I see it coming. All right, Kangaroo Bob, I did get a second one in for you. Who will start at left defensive end for the Dolphins? So if you look at kind of basically needing to replace Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis in your base 3-4 alignment. So you got Zach Sealer as part of the initial three up front. And who else is with him? Well, I think, and this is kind of a cop-out answer right here, it's the offseason where you're going to have to battle it out, because what did we do this offseason? We loaded up on interior defensive linemen. It seemed like every other day we were signing another guy or two. Yeah, we didn't hit it in the draft. We didn't prioritize a guy like Byron Murphy or Jerzon Newton. But hey, for all the free agents, what we got, it's going to be a camp battle. If I'm predicting it today, you hear a lot of good things about Tier Tart. It just hasn't really clicked for him in any of his stops so far in the NFL. I think the raw talent is there. Maybe he just needs a little bit more coaching, needs to be put in the right situation. So I like his upside. I would say like a guy like Deshaun Hand. He was here last year, but it's a different defense. It's a different defensive coordinator. So I don't know how much that factors in, but regardless, worth kind of monitoring. But like I was alluding to though, it's going to be whoever can really stand out in training camp, really take the reins, make the most kind of impact plays, look like the most consistent option. But at the end of the day, don't look for it to be one guy that dominates the snaps. I truly think we'll have a solid guy that starts, but outside of that, you're going to see a rotation. You're going to see fresh bodies, I believe, anyways, as of how things stand today. You're going to see fresh bodies quite often in this rotation. And you know what? I don't mind that. See how it plays out this year. See if you do have a strength, see what your weaknesses are. Maybe that's something that you address in 2025 and beyond. So like I said, a little bit of a cop-out answer there, but I really think it's going to be a huge rotation. All right, let's do one more. I got time for one more. From Fake Spike. That's a great username, by the way. I love that. Dolphins offense should take a big leap with Jonnu Smith at tight end. Tua led the league in passing last year with no production from tight ends. Yeah, I mean, we saw Durham Smythe there. He was the third leading target share man, and he hardly even had anything. Why is nobody talking about it? Like I said there, from Fake Spike. Because it's not sexy. That's probably the biggest answer for that. When it's tight ends, like you got to have a big name to really just stand out at the position. You got to be the Kelseys, the Kittles, a new guy like Brock Bowers. You gotta bring something to it. It's just not the sexy thing you're going to hear about. Now, I do think that we would have gotten more hype around that if OTAs would have happened and minicamp and training camp would have happened, and we'd have seen Tua targeting Jonnu Smith on a fairly consistent basis. But why I think maybe, hopefully that's still the case. I would really like to see some production from the tight end, more production than even that we got from a guy like Durham Smythe, because you know what Durham Smythe was last year. He was a guy that defensive coordinators weren't really caring about. He made some very big, important clutch catches, but it's not like it was a staple of the offense. It wasn't something that defensive coordinator said, we're taking away Durham Smythe today. That didn't exist. But where I think that it might get overshadowed is we signed Odell Beckham. Now we were looking for that guy to be that third target share getter, because you got Hill, you got Waddle. Now I think it's going to end up being Beckham that gets more targets than Jonnu Smith. So if that ends up being the case, well, now Jonnu Smith is even further down on that pecking order when it comes to targets. And so far, what we've seen from Mike McDaniel is that he's not necessarily prioritizing the idea of targeting the tight end. Now, I think that can change with Jonnu Smith, and I'm hoping that changes. That's part of the evolution of this offense, especially when you got a guy like Jonnu Smith, who is a good pass catcher and who's really good at creating after the catch. One of the better tight ends at creating after the catch. I just think it's going to get overshadowed, overrun a little bit by the idea of Odell Beckham Jr. being that third target share kind of leader. I will cut it there for today, Dolphins fans. I like to keep the videos in that 10 to 15 minute range. I don't even have any idea where I'm at right now. And like I said, I know that there were some people that asked multiple questions as well. If I got to a second or third of yours, great. If I did not, like I said, I will go back through the old comments of the videos and I will answer all the questions there as well. Like I said, get subscribed if you haven't done so already. We'll be back when the schedule gets released to break down all the opponents that we've got coming up for the 2024. Yeah, what year is it now? NFL season. We'll be doing some way too early win-loss predictions, but more so talking about like different stretches of the schedule, things to look for throughout the season here as we can continue to dive into more and more as we get that schedule release. And like I said, I'll be doing a preview of OTAs as well. We'll kill it there for today, Dolphins fans. Thanks to everyone that submitted their questions. And until next time, fins up.